Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Mindset-Conquest Podcast, where every week I'll be joined by a special guest who will be sharing what they've experienced as the biggest failure in their life, but most importantly, the lessons that they've learned from that experience. I'll be spending time with people that I've met throughout my life's journey in business, music, and sport. And the goal is to provide listeners like yourselves with the motivation needed to get through all of life's challenges and learn not to be afraid of failure, but rather to embrace it. Please like and subscribe and enjoy this episode. I'm Chris Atwell. On today's episode, I'm joined by Johanna Telio. Johanna is a vendor sales specialist and the recipient of the 2021 Vendor Specialist of the Year Award. She's the co-founder of Help by Helping, a charity that hosts job fairs for those on the spectrum. They also provide food and clothing for the homeless and hold dance parties for people with disabilities. She's a mother to her absolutely adorable fur baby, Phoebe, a Boston Terrier Pugg cross, and has an infinite yearning to enrich the lives of others. Welcome to the Mindset-Conquest Podcast. I've got a very special guest today, Johanna Telio. Johanna, how are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. How about yourself?
I'm doing excellent, thank you. Why don't we start by letting our listeners know a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what you do for a living.
Okay, sure. As you said, my name's Johanna Telio. I recently moved to Calgary about a year ago for work. I'm a Lenovo specialist at a distribution company. So I do sales, which I love. I've been doing sales for many years, and it's what I enjoy and what I'm great at. And I'm a dog owner. I don't have any kids, but I do have a furry friend, a furry loved one, Phoebe.
Hello, Phoebe. Can we see Phoebe?
Yeah, she's sleeping on the couch now, on the floor now.
Yeah, there we go. We won't bother Phoebe. That's cool. What kind of dog is she?
She's a bugg, so she's a part Boston, part Pugg, and very adorable.
Oh my goodness. Nice. And you said you recently moved to Calgary. Where were you before that?
I'm from Toronto. Toronto's home. So I miss home quite a bit, but my position moved me out to Calgary. So here I am.
Right on.
It's the second time I've lived out, third time I've lived out here. So there's something out in the west for me, I guess.
It is a beautiful province, cold, but it's very nice.
I think you guys shouldn't talk about cold right now, considering what happened yesterday in your snowstorm.
No doubt. We got hit with incredible snow. I've never seen anything like it here in the GTA. It's absolutely overwhelming. We got like 2 feet. Insane. But my daughters absolutely love it. They've been rolling around it for 2 days. Yeah.
For sure, the kiddos would love it.
So sales. How long have you been doing sales for?
To be honest, I'd say about 32 years because I consider bartending sales.
Okay.
As well. So corporate sales, about 15 years. Bartending before that.
Excellent.
It's sales.
So it absolutely is sales. And you were a bartender primarily in Toronto, or did you do that in Calgary as well?
Oh, no, that was, I did a bit in Calgary when I lived here before, but no, Toronto was where I bartended most.
Cool. Any cool spots that I might know from back in the day?
Probably a lot of them. I think the biggest one that people would know would be the docks.
Of course. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I missed that.
7 years over there, actually, I think.
Awesome. So you were involved in that nightlife, in the Toronto nightlife in the heyday.
I did. Actually, it's funny you say that because that's what originally moved me to Calgary the first time was my boyfriend and I at the time needed a change. I'm like, we have a shelf life for bartending. We have to figure something else out. And Calgary was booming back in 2006. So we just picked up and we moved out here to change our lives, which we did.
And then you jumped into your sales career. Yeah.
Jumped into my sales career. Yes.
Awesome. Good for you. And what do you think the most important thing about sales is? You say, because bartending's kind of like sales, like you said, but what drew you to a sales profession from bartending? What do you think the most important thing is that got you there?
I think the most important thing is listening. it's a skill that I know it's going to sound strange, but not everybody has. Everybody wants to be heard and give their own opinion all the time. But in sales, you really have to listen to what your customers are needing.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And there's the old, I guess, thought that bartenders are supposed to be great listeners, right? So
it's true. It's not just a thought. It's true. We listen a lot. So, and I think one of the biggest things too in sales is being very responsive. So I know for myself, I have no patience. So I don't like waiting for an answer. And I imagine a lot of my partners don't like waiting for answers either. So responsiveness, which is the same again at a bar. If you think about it, when you're bartending and you could have especially the docks, 10 people deep, 20 people wide, if you give them an eye signal, they're okay to wait. But if you're working head down and not looking up at everybody to let them know that they're there, then they get frustrated.
Oh, yeah. And then they start moving and butting in front of people.
Start throwing things at you.
And customers will do the same thing in the sales world too. Absolutely. It's a great analogy. What do you like most about your sales profession?
I've made it a point to really look for companies that have the culture that I'm looking for. So for me, a big thing is teamwork. When a lot of sales jobs, it's very cutthroat. But I like to work at companies where they're all helping each other. If they succeed, you succeed, the whole company succeeds. So I'm really big on that. And for the companies caring about their staff, that's really important to me, and about their customers, right?
Absolutely. I actually come from the hospitality industry as one of my first careers as well. I was a kitchen manager downtown Toronto, ran restaurants. And when I'm hiring salespeople in my role as a sales leader, I often look for people with hospitality experience because they know how to handle high pressure in a fast-paced environment. Number one, usually their communication skills are excellent because they have to listen well. And they just generally like helping people. So I can relate with you there. I think that's a great transition. And most salespeople who've been in the restaurant industry are natural salespeople. So kudos to you. I think that's really cool.
It's not just me. Like you said, it's a lot of us. There's a lot of my colleagues and former colleagues that are in sales that all came from the hospitality industry too.
For sure. And I wonder now too, with kind of the whole world COVID situation and the constraints that are being put on restaurants, if we're going to see a lot more of these talented hospitality experienced people move into, a sales profession.
100%. It's really sad because even when I was in Toronto and the summertime, they opened back up again. Was it last summer, the summer before? They opened back up again. And friends of mine that own restaurants and bars, they were saying they can't find staff because they've moved on, right? They had all that time off and they either upgraded their skills, decided to move on and leave the hospitality industry. So it's really hard on them right now, right?
No, for sure. For sure. But those people are getting a second chance in life too. Maybe moving on to a different chapter that's going to, help them grow as professionals and individuals. So it's kind of like a catch-22. The restaurateur is struggling to find quality talent, but that quality talent is moving on to something bigger and better in their eyes, right? So that's pretty cool. Right on. So the premise of this podcast is really around helping listeners get a chance to hear from people that I've met throughout my life's journey in my personal life, business, music, sports, and hear from them what they consider to be their biggest failure and the lessons that they've learned from that. And the reason for that is that a lot of people are probably going through challenges in their lives, and hopefully this podcast will give them some sort of medium, some sort of resource where they can relate to somebody who's been through it before and seek advice from that person in a similar situation, so that they can either one, move past that failure or embrace it and learn from it and make them better every day. So I'm going to ask you, And it doesn't necessarily have to be a failure per se. I use that term. It's a powerful term. It could be anything. It could be a loss. It could be a mistake, whatever you want to call it. But what does Johanna consider her biggest failure in her life?
So I'm glad you said that it could be a mistake and not necessarily a failure, because I've thought about this question a lot, and failure makes it feel so negative. But a mistake, I've had a few. I've had a few, and a couple of them in my mind are big. One of them is not finishing school, not finishing high school. So I moved out on my own when I was 17, and I just couldn't pay rent and go to school at the same time. So obviously I decided to quit school. So that was, and not go to university afterwards. And that's something I regret for many reasons. For, the whole aspect of, I think that everybody should go through the university experience for the experience. You know what I mean? Right. So I do regret not having that. But at the same time, I learned a lot of life skills in that time. When people were at school learning, I was learning life skills. And I know a lot of companies, they ask for your university degree or college degree. I don't have one to provide, but that's okay. I've still succeeded. I've had great jobs. I haven't let it hold me back. I learned other skills that have helped me, as we kind of just discussed with the bartending, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I know countless people that don't have a college education or university education. I'm not university educated. I've got some certificate courses that I've taken later in life, not when I was younger. And many of these people have found success. So, I wonder what the true value of, that request from many organizations. If, you must have a university degree or a bachelor's or a master's, what the true value of that is. And, how did you navigate through that? Because you've got a successful sales career.
So to be honest, while I was, when I was 28, I decided at least I need to get for myself. And this wasn't for any other reason, but I wanted to do it for myself. My high school. So I went and I quit my job for 3 months because I had been out of school at that point for 11 years. So I had to relearn things. I wanted to take my GED so I could at least have my high school certificate, right?
Right.
So I made it a point and a goal for myself that I was going to get it. I quit my job. I literally set my alarms for the day. During the day, I'm studying for this many hours. I'm going to take a lunch break. I'm going to take a 15-minute break here. And I did that 3 months solid. Wow. Then went and took my GED and I got it. And to be honest, I would never have been able to go and take my GED a week after deciding. I needed that study time, but it was something that, being out of school for 11 years was challenging, but it was something that I knew that if I put my mind to it, I'll do it. And I did.
That's amazing. That would be a little bit overwhelming, being asked to write a GED test. I've never seen one, but I can only imagine, having to recall, the math questions from high school and the grammar questions, the science questions. That's a little bit intense. I've got 2 girls at home. One's in grade 2. Okay. And I've got to help her with her homework because she's in French school and I'm Francophone in the house. And sometimes I see these questions for grade 2 and I'm scratching my head, right? so
it's true, right? If you're not used to doing it on a daily,
right,
it just leaves your mind. Yes.
Right. But then, in your day-to-day job requirement, work career type of approach, you develop habits, routines, and knowledge that you can apply that is completely unrelated to what you learned in high school, that is far more applicable in the space that you're working.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And that's why I say I had street smarts, if you want to say it. I learned from experiences, and I see a lot of people that have gone to university, and it's the way to go for certain careers for sure. But in my path that I chose in sales, I'm successful without university. So, and I think it's just as we've discussed before, it's a mindset, right? And not giving up on yourself, and using the resources, whether it be friends or colleagues, to guide you through as well if you need assistance, and just not being afraid to ask for help if you need it.
So let's go back to that mindset piece, because you know, when you were 28, you decided to tackle that GED. What you said you did it for yourself, but what motivated you to do that?
Actually, I wanted to be a police officer, and I needed the GED, or high school in order to be a police officer. So that's why I had to do it. I mean, so I did it for myself, and because I really wanted to have a career in law enforcement, though I just couldn't pass the physical.
Oh, geez. Okay. Yeah. Is that still kind of like a dream of yours, law enforcement?
It was for a long time. I was devastated when I couldn't pass the physical. I tried. I did for a year and a half train, and I just still couldn't get past it. The shuttle run. Have you ever done a shuttle run?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, many times. That's hard. And especially when you got to be fast.
Yeah. I think I got to level 3.5, and you needed to get to level 7 in order to pass. And found out later I have a lung condition.
What did you do to kind of get over that eventually? It sounds like you're over it now, but what sort of resources did you tap into? What helped you get over that?
Wow. That's a good question. I just couldn't let myself drain myself of energy thinking about the fact that I couldn't make it in, that it didn't matter what I would do physically, I wouldn't be able to because of my lung issues. So I had to just kind of pivot and say, okay, my career path is not going to go in the way I want it, in the direction I'd like, but there's so much else out there. Like, what else do you enjoy doing? Right. You don't stop because you can't do one. You just keep moving forward.
And I feel like when you get those feelings of defeat, of being weak or unworthy, right? We've all been through that before, that you got to let those feelings process for a while, right? They're going to be there. So you can't just disregard them and bury them. You got to go through the motions, feel them, and then figure out what's next. So we've got situations where you felt defeat. You've got situations where you didn't complete things, but you went back and you got your GED. What sort of advice would you give somebody who was in the same shoes as you, right? You already mentioned don't give up, right? But what sort of advice would you give somebody who was in the same boat?
Besides the never give up on yourself, which
right. Yeah.
I'm so about not giving up on yourself. There's many times that I wanted to, and to be honest, my friends would never let me. So besides that, I would say not to listen to the negative things that others might say. Though you'll probably hear a lot of, if you don't finish school, you're never going to succeed. As you know, as I know, there's many people that haven't, that are really successful people. Follow Absolutely. Your passion. I think if you follow your passion and you know your value, you can succeed in anything. I always love what people say, whatever's your hobby, music is your hobby. It's your passion. Follow it and you can make a career out of it, right?
Absolutely. I love that. Don't look for that external validation. Don't let other people's opinions drag you down. That's a strong one.
Yeah. You don't be easily influenced, and lean on others. Talk to people if you're feeling like you need some motivation or anything, somebody like you, just have those conversations with your dear friends or your family and ask them, it's kind of weird, but I've had a lot of people, even before I was in sales, that would push me towards sales. They're like, you have a knack for it, the way you can just open up and chat with anybody and you listen. So listen to what your friends and family are saying that they think are valuable parts of you, like certain characteristics that you might have that will be successful in certain industries.
Yeah, because they know you well and they respect you and they love you. So listen to them, not the others. I like that.
Not the naysayers.
Yeah, the
There's
naysayers.
too many of those out there.
Exactly. I like to ask this question. So who are the 3 most influential people in your life?
It's a hard one because most people are going to sit there and say, oh, my mom or my dad. That's not it for me. It's my friends and one of my aunts. So one of my aunties, my Auntie Yolan, has always treated me like a daughter, and she's never judged me, but she will guide me, or she will speak to me about if I can go to her if I'm not feeling well. I can't really go to my mom like that, or my sister, my brother. It's more of my auntie.
Okay.
She always encourages me. She does not say something negative to me about me. Do you know what I mean? Then I feel fortunate. I have some really great friends, and a lot of them who have always been there for me. They can see, Taya, who's been one of my dear friends for, 25 years or more. Nice. She knows me like the back of her hand, and she knows if I'm down. She knows if things are going well. Like, she can spot it in me if I'm, having issues with anything, and I don't have to say it to her. She knows it all the time. I can count on her. Like, I know she will be in my life till the end of my life. And Naj and Gita, both the same. They encourage me a lot. They don't let me, if something, I'm going to use your word, if something fails in my life or a mistake happens, they don't let me sit back and dwell on it. They make me look at the positive things that may have surrounded it, or the positive things that can happen from it. So I guess, like we were saying before, don't let others influence you in negative ways. I'm open to my friends influencing me in positive ways, and they do it all the time. So good group of friends I'm fortunate for, and my auntie.
Oh, that's amazing. You definitely need a tight circle of people that are going to motivate you, empower you, and be there for you. And that's what it sounds like you've got there. That's,
it's one of my friends, Jill. So it was really hard for me to make the decision to move here for this position that I have right now. There was a lot of tears that I had, especially like moving out here alone. I didn't know if I could do it. And one of my girlfriends just came right out and said to me, you know what, Jill, pull up your big girl panties. And I when she said that, it was like, okay, she's right. Why am I sitting here crying? Like, they'll still be here. If things don't work out in Calgary, I can come back home. But why not try, right? Take a leap of faith and try it and see what happens.
I love it. You gotta get out of your comfort zone. It's the only way you're gonna go.
Right here, this is out of my comfort zone. I'm gonna let you know that. And I literally thought about this podcast for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, and it's so out of my comfort zone, but I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did it for you, and I'm glad I did it for me. Thanks for pushing me.
You're an inspiration, Johanna. I respect you in so many ways. Your career path has taken you in different directions. You've tried multiple things. You've never let yourself give up. And you've found success, and you've got amazing people in your life. And I think a lot of people should strive to have the same sort of success that you've had. And those failures, you've learned from them. And thank you for sharing your journey. I really appreciate that. It's hard. It's not easy to get up on camera and on a microphone to be vulnerable and share something personal like that. But I think there's a lot to be said about that, because hopefully it's going to help somebody, right? And people,
I hope so.
Yeah, people are looking for help and are in similar situations. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Before we go, I'd just like to ask you, where can our listeners connect with you online? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you on Instagram?
I am on LinkedIn, Johanna Telio on LinkedIn. My Facebook page is private, so the only place would be on LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
And I want to thank you. I want to thank you, like really. And I have to say this. I've actually said this to my friends. I'm like, I don't even understand how he does everything that he does, because you're doing your music, you're doing your workout, you're doing your coaching, you're doing this podcast now. You're a dad with 2 kids. Like, I don't even know where you find the time. Plus your full-time day job. Mm-hmm. So you, my friend, are an inspiration. Congrats on this podcast, and congrats on everything you do.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And we'll chat soon. Thank you again. You take care. Okay.
Bye, Chris. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.